Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And Marvel must be hard up for cash because they're bringing the Punisher back, Frank Castle back, with the problematic logo.
Yeah.
What the frick? What year is it? Yeah, I mean, this is another indicator that things are getting walked back somewhat. Because remember, a couple of years ago,
oh yeah, it was like you were a terrible person. You were,
you were a
basically
literal
Hitler.
You were practically Hitler. You were definitely a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist if you use the Punisher logo. And Marvel went out of their way to distance themselves from that logo in the early 2020s. And they even went so far as to change the logo and then get rid of Frank Castle altogether. And it did not work. People hated it. And there's got to be somebody at Marvel or Disney or something being like, hey, guys, you like money? Yeah, we like money. You know what your job is? To make us money.
Make money, yes.
And you know who makes money and what makes money? The Punisher with that logo. Bring him back.
It was stupid to begin with because I never understood it. It was like just because, some people were using the logo, whether or not they had permission or not, there was not a reason to remove it completely. That was just stupid.
That was really stupid. And then all you're doing, I mean, on quote unquote your side of it, is aren't you empowering or admitting that those people have the power to, commandeer your franchise?
Yeah,
I mean,
basically,
the thing to do would be to just stay the course and be like, look, this is not what the character represents. And that's it. If people who have, I mean, this is the same thing they did with D&D too. They're like, we need to get rid of all the racists from D&D. Well, good luck. You can't do that because in your attempt to get rid of the quote unquote racists from D&D or from the Punisher fandom or whatever, you're getting rid of everybody because you're getting rid of what works about the character, what people know about the character. Somebody was using Spider-Man as a racist meme, so he's not going to be Spider-Man anymore. We're going to completely change him, and it's like
right,
dumbass.
like you just literally gave them oxygen. You said you don't want to give them,
Yeah, it was a non-controversy. It was not a controversial whatever, and it's look, if your intentions are good, and those people do not speak for the majority of Punisher fans, then what's the big ass deal, right? So let's talk about this reversal here before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So just to lead up to this, for those of you who are not aware, the Punisher logo was very problematic, and Marvel decided they were going to try to be done with it because it was a hate symbol because some people that worked at Marvel didn't like that the Punisher logo was being used on trucks and on police vests and all that stuff. And then they decided, well, what the hell? Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and run Frank Castle through the mud and change the logo.
They did, yeah.
Get rid of them all together. And how's that working for you? Oh, yeah, it didn't sell because people freaking hated it. Oh, well, I guess we got to put it back.
Frank Castle was a face of toxic masculinity.
So now they are bringing, the logo back. Of course they are, because it's safe now. Actually, I don't think it's so much safe as like, oh my God, we need money. We need money badly.
Yeah.
Just put Spider-Man, Mary Jane back together in the 616. That would work. Put the X-Men, make the X-Men the 90s team again. That would work. But you just give people what they want.
Stop X-Men prom. That would work.
Stop X-Men prom every year. Stop having them hang out in an island and stop. God, it's so easy. It is so easy to fix Marvel comics. So easy. And they refuse to do it. And I'm with Rob Liefeld. They got to get rid of the people in charge because you've burned the goodwill down. Anyway, let's go from IGN, then we'll go out to Cosmic Book News. Following a controversial revamp of the Punisher franchise that saw Frank Castle give up his war on crime and another anti-hero take up the mantle, Marvel's bringing him back in September of 2025, and they're bringing the logo back. Frank will again don the iconic skull emblem in a new 5-issue limited series called Punisher Redband.
Limited series, yeah.
No, they're testing the water. Hey, look, every Marvel series is a limited series because the books sell so piss poor they get canceled after a couple issues. So, if it's successful, and I think it will be, then this is what people want. The new series is going to be heavy on violence and gore and will ship inside a poly bag due to explicit content. Well, there you go. Get a closer look at the first issue, blah, 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 blah. So they're not talking about the controversy, the creative team. They're not talking about the controversy, but IGN's going to let you know about it.
Because, you can't let them get away with it. We got to make sure everybody knows.
With this new series, Marvel is pivoting away from its revamp of the Punisher franchise. And they said they transformed Frank into a superpowered agent of the Hand before ultimately leaving Frank demoralized and forsaken by his resurrected wife. Yeah, they brought his wife back to bust his balls and shame him for seeking vengeance against the people that killed his family, because that's what a toxic male would do. All those guns are bad, Frank. And that logo, oh my God, cops are using the logo. They have it on pickup trucks. Racists have your logo on their pickup truck, Frank. Are you okay with that? I'm ashamed of you. Fucking stupid.
It was so funny, but it's true. It's basically what,
It's so fucking stupid. It was just a fucking stupid thing to do. All right, so Jon Bernthal apparently had something to do with this because he wants to come back as a Punisher.
Yeah, apparently he's doing a show. They're going to do a Punisher show. And he had opportunities to come back as Punisher for other things and wouldn't do it because he said that wasn't the character. So I don't know what they had offered, but he was just like, no. And so now he's come back and he's doing a show and he's bringing back the Punisher.
Yeah, and if look, Disney reshot most of Born Again to try to get it right. Whether or not they succeeded, that's up for debate. And I think they're probably looking at this too. Like there's definitely something going on. I think the fear of Nelson Peltz has gotten to Bob Iger.
I don't think it's Nelson Peltz. I think the fear of the normies, the box office decline, the viewership of the shows in decline. I think that kind of stuff got to him.
So 3 years it lasted. They said, this comes from Cosmic Book News, by the way. Marvel Comics went so far as to completely destroy Frank by removing the very reason he is a Punisher. They brought his wife back from the dead, leaving him demoralized and forsaken. The reason they got rid of Frank is that they hate what the Punisher represents. Many people in the police and military in the real world are inspired by the Punisher and even use the logo. He says, the wokies hate that. They hate the police. They hate the military. Of course, they hate Trump. So they did away with the Punisher. They made Frank Castle give up his war and crime and replace him with a different character. Of course they did. They canceled. It was canceled after 4 issues.
Yeah, shocker there. Was it a woman?
No, it was some
shocker.
other dude. So Frank Castle returns to Punisher Redband. So back to Jon Bernthal. We don't know if he's directly to thank, but Marvel Comics has announced a new series where Frank Castle will be back as the Punisher with the original logo.
Is he writing it? Is he working on it or something?
No.
Okay, because I know he's doing the show. I know he's doing the show.
Yeah. Oh, here's a synopsis. That's interesting. Reread and reload True Believers. Frank Castle is back. With no memories, a full clip, and a thirst for wrathful vengeance. His violent search for answers can only be chronicled in a Redband series. Interesting. So they're going to wipe his memory so he doesn't remember his wife busting his balls.
Yeah, pretty much. He brought him back, but he doesn't remember all that bad stuff. And we wish to God you didn't remember it either. So we're going to pretend it didn't happen and step over it.
All right. So Jon Bernthal is back as the Punisher in the MCU.
He's developing a spinoff.
Spinoff for the streamer. Marvel brings Frank Castle back as the Punisher. Coincidence? Nope. Yeah, because they always want to try to tie it in to whatever they're doing in the MCU. That's probably
people were excited when they saw that he was coming back as a Punisher in Daredevil.
Yeah,
they were really excited about it.
He was fantastic, and I thought it was so weird though. They're like they wouldn't let the characters smoke on the show, but they could have him talking about how his family had meat coming out of their body after they got shot.
Yeah, you can't smoke. You could smoke someone.
You can smoke somebody, blow their head off or something. That's fine. That's okay. But if they're smoking, that's kind of like I never understood with the new Mortal Kombat games. People are getting all upset about women not having enough clothes. I'm like, you literally get to see their insides. And you're worried that they're not wearing enough clothing as they get ripped in half and you can see all their parts, like uterus and everything. It's inside.
For real?
Yeah.
They don't play them, so.
Slice women in half and it's all like, but you're going to worry that there's a little too much cleavage. Okay.
There's cleavage, and then there's cleavage.
Cleavage, yeah. So what did I say? Marvel Comics sellout Tom Brevoort admitted the comics only serve as creative fodder for the eventual film and animation development. He needs to go. Like, there's no creativity or whatever in the comics now. They're just basically on autopilot. And he just seems like he's sad and depressed and just trying to do what he can do to bide his time. And
I don't think he's sad and depressed. I think he's a narcissistic twit. And I think he goes up there and deliberately tries to put himself on a pedestal and then, try to belittle people and keep saying doubling down. Now, to be fair, I think the Spider-Man thing, I do not think that's all on him. I think, and Marvel, I think that's a Disney.
I'm wondering.
I really think that's a Disney mandate.
Keep him unmarried because he has to be a teenager, because if as soon as we give him adult responsibilities, it's
Yeah, I think that might be a Disney thing, but not sure about that. I just think it might be. But his behavior, he could just say, he could handle things in a much better way than he does. He's doing it because he wants the spotlight on him and he wants to be like in your face. Yeah. And it's not working to his advantage. It really isn't. People don't like when others act that way.
So this is what Jon Bernthal said in 2021 about the Punisher, making sure the Punisher was done right.
Yes.
So this and this is then right after that.
I've covered this before, so I know what I'm talking about.
He said, this is what he said. He said that character in particular has real, deep meaning for me and resonance in me. He's really in my heart, man. He's in my bones. I'm enormously protective of that character. I've said before that there's nothing in this world more important to me than my wife and kids. And only until you understand that kind of love and what it really means to willingly die for somebody, what it would be like if somebody took them from you. That's true. It is true. I probably would go to a very dark place if something happened to you guys.
Yes, we've had discussions that you better not ever go to a really dark place. Anyway,
I probably would. That's a road in a darkness and a rage that really, really scares me and brings me to places I've worked the last 20 years to get away from. So I was really grateful, respectful, and weary of the places where that role took me and the world in which I had to live in. And yeah, it's true though. I mean, if that's the only thing you have and somebody takes them away from you and then you have to watch them take, it's like,
continue, I said.
So I'm like, what's this guy been through? He's I can totally relate. Right? I can totally relate to this. I'm like, I don't know, what have you been through? Maybe I don't know the whole backstory, but I'm like, have you been through some shit, man? That being said, that's where the character needs to be. It needs to be a level of darkness. Because the thing is, what makes him so relatable is, if you really stop and think about it, thank God most people will never have to go through what Frank Castle went through, but some people do, or some variation of it. And I'm sure they wrestle with that, right? I think if there's any let up on that character, you do a disservice to the character. Yeah, I think if there's any let up on that character, you do disservice to that character, to every iteration of that character, to every comic book that's come before, and to all the unbelievable fans of the character. They're just bigots and Nazis. Because Trump. This character means so much to people in the military. So like I said before, it's not about whether you do the character, it's about whether you can do it right. And I'm only interested in doing it right.
Yeah, and apparently from I think other interviews, he said that they said before doing stuff, and he's like, I'm not doing it because it was not the character.
I wish more actors would take that line, because the thing is, there's always somebody willing to do it, but if you get the right person, if you've got the right person and they're closely identified with that role and they're just like, yeah, you're doing a huge disservice. Like, I wish Mark Hamill had stood up for Luke Skywalker.
Well, you had, Tamar Morrison saying Boba Fett wouldn't be talking all this stuff, and they wouldn't listen to him. And he kept saying, he wouldn't be this talky. This is not the character. No. And they wouldn't listen. And
he was sad. They destroyed. It's the place now where people like The Mandalorian more than they like Boba Fett. Basically, The Mandalorian is what Boba Fett should have been. And, so
I think it was supposed to be, but
he was cool. Boba was cool in the what was he in the second season? I think it was the second season. He was.
Well, they were supposed to make. I think The Mandalorian was what Boba Fett movie was supposed to be, and they kind of just spent off.
Yeah,
and
they just
added
kind of
Baby Yoda,
punted it to another character. But, yeah, he's right. Marvel needs to get that through their damn heads. They need to get rid of the people.
He's also protective of the fans. He's like, if you have fans that are fans of this, you have to give them what they're fans of.
Yeah.
So and that's what a refreshing, realistic and, right take. correct, not right. You know what I mean? I better say correct.
Oh,
take.
of course.
Like,
That was the Freudian slip, Clownfish.
Of
You know
course.
what you meant. You know that was the dog whistle. You know what you meant, Clownfish. No, it's I mean, the character is fine, and even the people that created the Punisher are left leaning, and I'm sorry, it does a huge disservice to anyone who's worked on this character before. It's not, it's not an allegory for being right wing. It's not. It's just oftentimes the system fails us, right? And sometimes you got to take things in your own hands. I don't know. Anyway, are we gonna wrap this up?
Yep.
They're learning slowly. Is it too late? I don't know. But I think this will be the best-selling Punisher anything in a good long time. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.